There will be at least 2 new coaches in the new Pac-12 in July of 2026. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pac-12 Daily Podcast. I'm Christian Rao. Let's get an emergency Sunday conversation here as Jay Norvell of Colorado State is now no longer the head coach. He was fired on Sunday morning, and a new era is coming before the Pac-12 jump. Jay Norvell is out at Colorado State, 4 seasons, 1 winning year, and now the Rams are starting over. I mean, the move comes less than 24 hours after a 31-19 loss to Hawaii. Hawaii looks like a good team this year, but still not good enough for Colorado State. It's their fifth of the season, their 5th loss of the season, going 2-5 so far. And the one that broke the news, the one that broke whatever belief that was left inside this locker room was that loss against Hawaii. You could feel that this one was coming, 100%. But this isn't just a midseason firing. This is a statement that Colorado State refuses to limp into the new Pac-12 as an afterthought, because that is absolutely what they would do if they stuck around with Jay Norvell. A couple things. Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty here. Colorado State did announce they had an official statement that Jay Norvell will not return as the head coach of the football program effective immediately. And Tyson Summers, who was the defensive coordinator for Colorado State, will now serve as the interim head coach for the remainder of the season. They said CSU will immediately launch a nationwide search for the next head coach. There are a ton of openings, so this is going to be a very interesting thing coming in. I'll talk more about Summers in just a minute, but a quote here from athletic director John Weber. Jay is a leader of the highest character who cares deeply about developing his players as athletes, students, and young men. My admiration for Jay and appreciation for his integrity makes this decision that much more difficult. Jay has made this program better during his tenure at CSU. On behalf of the entire Rams family, I sincerely thank Jay for the strong foundation he laid on our football program. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, to be completely honest. You might be able to say that looking back, but I don't think that he was the right choice from the get-go. I think it was a really tough hire. And if I had to put one kind of sentence into Jay Norvell's tenure at Colorado State, he did a very good job at doing less with more. Kind of stings, but that's exactly how I feel about it. There's always a situation when you're talking about being the Colorado State against Colorado, or we're seeing this happening in another Pac-12 school with Oregon State against Oregon. You're always at a disadvantage. You have to find a way to work with what you have. And with Jay Norvell, I just don't think that he did that properly. And of course, that's what gave him his firing after his 4th season. Of course, I think the biggest thing you can remember, if you don't know much about Colorado State, but you remember Jay Norvell's name, of course, just a few years ago when Deion Sanders was coming on the scene, that was probably the biggest thing that came into mind, where he talked about how he had no feelings towards Deion Sanders. And there was definitely that big emotional outbreak during that game between Colorado and Colorado State. But there's, of course, more to it. I mean, he had a great season last year. Overall was a good year for Jay Norvell and for Colorado State last year, 8-5 on the season, 2024, but it was very short-lived. This year, 2-5. Overall, Norvell finishes 18-26 across those 3.5 seasons, and you just can't have that, because the writing was on the wall this year, whether you believe it or not. But I think it started to happen when they decided to make the quarterback change from Braden Fowler Nicolosi and moving on over to Jackson Brousseau. I think that was the first indicator of, okay, maybe the seat's getting a little bit more hot for Jay Norvell. Then in a week following, you see, okay, now Matt Mumme is going to be the play caller. He's no longer having play calling duties. He passes it over to Matt Mumme, and Jackson Brousseau is going to lead this new charging offense. And it was a disaster from the start. Yes, they did get a win against Fresno State. Makes you wonder how much of a fluke win that kind of was, because I think Fresno State's a good team. And that was the only good win of the season for Colorado State. If you go back to their game against Northern Colorado, if you go back to that final play of the game, you could make the excuse, you could make the narrative that they kind of stole that one and they didn't deserve to win that football game. So overall, I think they really only have one good win against Fresno State, which is a good football program, no doubt about it. But when you're at 2-5 on the season after an 8-5 year, you have to make some sort of transition. In the press conference yesterday after the game against Hawaii, he even mentioned that they're even trying new defensive schemes. It just wasn't working out. Execution wasn't there. And overall, everything wasn't falling into place for Jay Norvell. So I think this is an excellent time for them to make this decision. CSU ranks outside the top 100 nationally in both as a scoring offense. They're 106. In passing offense, they're 111th. Now, yes, that is due to a quarterback change, but either way, that's just not good enough if you're going to try and compete in the Mountain West. And then, of course, next year in the new Pac-12. Speaking of that defense, they haven't held up the bargain either. They're giving up at least 27 points per game. I think you could feel this coming. The numbers scream regression from a program that was supposed to be hitting its stride heading into the Pac-12 in July of 2026. They just weren't losing. I mean, to be honest, it was kind of unwatchable. Some of the biggest things that come up, I put a tweet up on social media on Saturday. I said I didn't know what was more embarrassing, and I pointed something towards the Washington State breakdown against UVA, but also every single 2-point play call that they've had so far this season. That one would have got them probably a win against UTSA, and then you could make the argument that would have kept them more in the game against Hawaii. Play calling was atrocious this entire season, whether it was Norvell or Mummy in charge of it, and I think there's going to be at least some sort of positive regression, you would think, heading into the rest of the season until they continue that nationwide side. Who is Tyson Summers? Well, let's get into that real fast. Well, of course, he was a defensive coordinator for Colorado State. Now he's going to be DC and acting interim head coach. This is his second stint as a defensive coordinator for Colorado State. He was also there in 2015 before taking over the head coaching job at Georgia Southern from 2016 to 2017. Wasn't a very good head coach, at least for record-wise, was 5-13 at Georgia Southern, went 0-6 in 2017 before he was ultimately fired from that, and then took on some couple of defensive coordinator roles or quality controls and defensive assistants across the Southeast and Colorado with the Buffaloes. Coming back to Colorado State this past year after being the defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky from 2022 to 2024, and now being the interim head coach. A couple other things here from the official statement from Colorado State. Says, we're deeply grateful for Jay and Kim for their contributions to CSU and the entire community. They will always be a part of the Ram family. And of course, talking more about the nationwide search. When you're talking about that, the athletic director said, we have all the ingredients for success here at CSU, and our aspiration is to be the most loved, most watched, and most innovative program in the West. That's a huge thing to say when you're moving into arguably the brand name's biggest conference of the West. The next head coach of the Rams will be stepping into a program headed to the Pac-12 with the resources and leadership alignment necessary to win and compete at the highest level. So it sounds like, unless this is all just athletic discussion, all AD talk, all coach speak, if you will, maybe the businessman inside him, it sounds like they are going to give it their absolute all to get a contender or a big name coach into Colorado State. I think you have to make a home run hire, or you have to bring back somebody who absolutely loves this university. On3 put out their initial job hot board right off the bat. We'll get into some of those names in just a second. There's just so many things from this fallout and frustration of Jay Norvell. You could see it coming. Now you have two openings heading into the new Pac-12 year, with Trent Bray leaving Oregon State, and now with Jay Norvell leaving Colorado State. There's a couple other huge openings across college football as well. It's going to be very tough to land a big fish in this world of head coaching vacancies, but Colorado State absolutely must do everything they possibly can. A couple key quotes and storylines here that hit. I think the Hawaii loss was the tipping point. I mentioned that as well. Kind of funny that Cheng is the tipping point in this one for Hawaii. He's doing a great job over there with the Rainbow Warriors, 6-2 on the season so far. CSU's biggest home crowd in history last night on Saturday, and it turned into like a funeral atmosphere for Jay Norvell after losing that one. Norvell admitted post-game that his team, quote, didn't respond and, quote, failed to execute in every phase. And when you get to that point in the season, when you're 2-5, and you've already made the changes at the quarterback. You've made changes in play calling. You said you tried new defensive schemes and it's still not working. Then you have to make a change at head coach. So I think it was definitely time. And the writing was on the wall, folks. His contract wasn't extended last offseason, a major red flag, if you will, that the school wasn't sold on him. And new athletic director John Weber, who we've talked about with his quotes earlier in this segment, was hired in May of 2024. He was not the one that hired Jay Norvell. So I think he's ready to put his stamp on the university and bring in his own guy to the mix. This will make his first major football hire coming in with the new head coaching search. So I think, once again, it needs to be a huge slam dunk. When a new athletic director comes in, you start the season 2-5. The writing's on the wall, folks. It's not just about the Hawaii game, although that was definitely the tipping point. This is about the direction of CSU and where the Pac-12 is going in 2026. They're gearing up for that Pac-12 next year. And if they weren't about to do it with a coach that lost the locker room, that lost the crowd, and you're talking the biggest history in the crowd in program history, it's just it's the worst timing for Jay Norvell to get things not going in the right direction. They absolutely had to make a change. One winning season, that was 2024 last year, 8-5. They lost the Arizona Bowl 43-17 to Miami of Ohio. And that's really all they had. And Jay Norvell, again, I don't think he was the best hire, and we'll see if they get it right this time. Coming over from Nevada, he was supposed to be known for his offensive innovation, and that just never clicked at Colorado State. Never really gave that spark at Fort Collins that they needed to. And I just think they have to find a way to hit that slam dunk. So here's some candidates to highlight here, and we've seen some of these from On3. I'll give a couple of thoughts myself. I think if you are going to go towards maybe you don't call it a slam dunk, one of the big names in there, because of course there's guys like James Franklin, who used to be a coach in the Midwest. You can obviously get him at a value deal if he wants to get back to coaching with a chip on his shoulder. That's one that you can obviously put into consideration, but I think he's going to be a hot commodity. I think James Franklin is going to be one of the guys that you have to give a phone call to without a doubt. But if you want to go for a CSU alum, somebody who absolutely would love to take the job, in my opinion, I think you got to go for Tony Alford, the Michigan running back coach. He is a Rams alumni. He does want the job. He connects with the fan base. He said it multiple times that he would love to be the head coach at Colorado State. So I think you have to go ahead and make sure you at least interview him, see if he's the right fit. And if you get that type of alumni, I think that could help recruiting. But it's not the home run swing. I think it's the home run swing if you're going for the local presence. But if you're going for the big time thing, maybe you have to consider a guy like James Franklin or somebody else. Brett Vegan, Montana State's head coach, consistent winner, proven program builder as well. If you just need to make that next step up and try to bring in somebody who can do the more with less instead of the less with more that I think Jay Norvell did, I think Vegan is the right choice. And then if you want to try the offensive innovator piece again, Cal offensive coordinator Brian Hartson, he had some great success in Boise State. Didn't have the greatest success at Auburn, but when you're looking at what he did at Boise State before the Auburn run, now he's the offensive coordinator at Cal, I think he'd be ready for another head coaching stint. Now, there was some questions about his effort in the recruiting trail while he was the head coach of Auburn. Not sure if that still translates over while he's been the offensive coordinator at Cal. That could be something of a concern to think about when you, again, are trying to do more with less. So he's not my top priority, but I think it's somebody you have to be innovating. But I'm going to say this. I think you have to do a home run hit, but overall, if I'm John Weber, I'm calling Tony Alford first. I think he's a Ram through and through. He's been vocal about wanting the job. He'd inject energy and identity back into a program that's been stuck in, even with the 8-5 season last year, I think it's been stuck in neutral for quite a long time. So that's the guy who I would call first. But again, it's going to be a nationwide search for Colorado State this coming season. Until then, Tyson Summers will take over as the interim head coach. You still got a couple good games ahead of you. Wyoming will be next Saturday, and that's going to be a big-time matchup at Wyoming. You have that one at 4:30 Pacific time, so 6:30 Central. You still got UNLV. You have New Mexico. You travel to Boise State, and then you finish the season against Air Force. So although you're 2-5, you can get that nice, fresh sense of resurgence, if you will. We've seen that happen with multiple interim coaches so far this season across the realm of college football, including in the Pac-12, Oregon State getting their first win on Saturday against Lafayette. Your season isn't over. You still have 2 losses, really, you still have 1 loss to work with, if you will, to find yourself still bowl contention. So I'm not saying, and nor do I think that this team will end up getting to 6 wins, but I think you can at least try and market that, try to get yourself, those players, a lot of tape, focus on them not quitting and getting into the portal right away, try and work the retention model. And the fact that you have Tyson Summers, who is been a big part of this program for a decade, although he has bounced back and forth in and out of the program himself. But the fact that he is back and being the head coach here, I think will be a good interim for the foreseeable future until they make some sort of change. So let me know what your thoughts are about Colorado State firing Jay Norvell. I know it's not the name that the national media is hoping for when it comes to Norvell being fired this week. A lot of people are hoping for Mike Norvell over at Florida State, but Jay Norvell out after 4 seasons with Colorado State. He will not be a head coach in the Pac-12 next season, at least for the Rams in Fort Collins.